For more on the trade complaints filed by both the United States and China, I spoke to Ken Monahan at Bloomberg Government, who is an analyst there, about the significance of the complaint.
I mean, I think it's an important case. It's one of many that we've seen over the last few years between the U.S. and China. I think that it's autos. It's particularly a politically important sector here in the U.S. and globally, so I think that's important. $1 billion has a nice big ring to it, if you will, in terms of the dollar figure. I think that's important. The fact that it's happening when it is, timing-wise, it's important. I think that, like I said, it's one of many cases, and so the extent to which we're going to see more cases like this, or this is the biggest one we'll see, I think there's many ways of looking at that.
To help our viewers in terms of clarification, you have a lot of experience in this, but when a country complains about a trade practice, it takes a certain amount of time. There has to be an investigation that has to be done. There's fact-checking and so on. Give us an idea of what to expect going forward now.
Yeah, it's about, I'd say, about a 2-month period of consultations. So the U.S. and China will talk about this in Geneva at the WTO, the World Trade Organization, which is based in Geneva. After a period of at least 2 months, the U.S. can say consultations have not worked, or they have worked, and make that determination. If they feel they've not worked, they can request a formal panel, essentially judges, to make a determination in Geneva at the World Trade Organization about whether these trade practices are illegal or legal, allowed or not allowed under international trade rules. Then we're talking years, at least a year before a decision is going to be actually announced by this panel. So we're talking late next year.
In other words, there's a lot of potential diplomacy that can take place. I mean, this sounds really awful, but the truth is there's a lot of discussions that are going to be happening behind the scenes.
It's a starting point, right?
Okay, let's get to China's response now. To no surprise, China responds by basically appealing a U.S. decision to place tariffs on nearly 30 different types of products that China exports to the United States. Give us a little bit of background on how this appeal process came into place and the type of products that we're talking about.
Right. So China has exports, obviously, any number of products to the U.S. The U.S., as part of its domestic trade law, legal processes, has been able to apply tariffs or duties and taxes, if you will, on the imports from China on goods that they've
Which they are doing that now.
They've been doing now, yeah. And they've said that because China has been illegally subsidizing the production of these goods, the U.S. can essentially apply tariffs to balance things out, if you will. China, essentially, what had happened was that these were deemed to be not allowed under U.S. law. So in March, the U.S. Congress passed legislation that said, no, for China, we can apply these duties. And this was essentially the challenge now that says, well, China says, no, we really don't think this is allowed.
Yeah, so China's appealing that decision, again, to the WTO. And what's the timeline in that frame? Is it the same thing where we're talking months and then a couple of years?
There is the same exact kind of track, if you will. And whether it's a response or is a separate decision, we'll see. But I think basically that same kind of time frame that I gave you before is where we're going with this in Geneva.
Ken, let's talk politics here. This decision by the Obama administration, obviously, the timing is a bit uncanny. We're weeks away from the general election, and a lot of people have accused the president and the administration of politicizing sort of this major decision. And without going into whether or not it is, isn't the question we should probably continue to expect these types of decisions from the administration going well into the elections? I mean, it's a political discussion point for a lot of folks.
It is, and the timing this week certainly, after the president was in Ohio today, made the announcement last night. Certainly, there is a suggestion there's a political angle to this. I think that these cases have been, raised against China and other countries for years. I think that, in my experience, the administration, the U.S. administration, will be careful to ensure that they can win these cases on their merits, if you will. So I think the timing is certainly interesting right now, but they're going to try to make sure they put forward a case that they think they can win.